my name is Adi. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Baptized Talkers, where I share my life experiences. I hope you find my stories entertaining, informative, or relatable. So today I'm going to share the story of how I lost my right ear because of a helix piercing. I'm going to break this story into two parts, so it's going to be part A and part B. Otherwise, this video is going to get really long, which I don't want to happen. So I'll be looking to my right from time to time because I have my notes on there. Okay, so let's get into it. So on the 25th of June 2022, I went to a reputable piercer and I had my lower helix pierced. The week before, I actually had my date pierced at the same place, and this date was healing really well. I was so proud of my piercing. I couldn't stop taking pictures of it because it was just beautiful. There was slight pain, but it was healing really well. So now I went back to them and I had my lower helix pierced. So after the helix piercing, on my way home, I realized that my ear was slightly warm. But I honestly didn't think much of it because I thought, you know what, I just had my ear cartilage pierced. Of course, there's going to be discomfort. It's not going to be a walk in the park. So I went on my way. And then that evening, while I was taking a shower, I realized that my ear was actually getting hot. But still, I didn't think much of it. So I just took a shower, took some painkillers, and went to bed. Just so people can understand some of the things I'm going to say in this video. Growing up, we never used to take painkillers. My mom would not give us painkillers unless we were in like the worst of pain. So if you would say, oh, my mom have a headache, should suggest that you take a bath, drink loads of water, have something to eat, rest, stop playing in the sun or walking in the sun, maybe take a nap. And it usually worked. It often, 9 out of 10 times, the suggestions would work. So I had to take painkillers. I didn't like painkillers, and this was my last resort on that day. I had to take a painkiller because I tried holding a cold cloth against the ear. It just wasn't working. So I had to take the painkillers and I went to bed. And then the next day, this Sunday, I actually wanted to go back to this PSA because the pain was getting worse, but they were closed. So I had to be brave. And then Monday, I went to work. I had to go to work. I was in pain, guys, and I probably should have stayed at home, but I couldn't because I was covering in for someone who was sick. The person was also, I'm laughing because both our illnesses came from because of really interesting events. But okay, so I was covering in for someone else who was sick, and they were the only person who could cover in for me if I had to stay at home. So I went to work, and so these notes actually made them back in 2022. So once I started experiencing all this pain and discomfort, I started making notes, and I was making these notes so I could use them at the doctor, and so I don't forget to mention something to the doctor. But now I'm glad for the notes because I'm using them for my YouTube videos. Okay, and back in 2020, I never thought I would actually have a YouTube channel, but here we are. So and then on the 1st of July, I went and had the piercing changed. So I actually went to a different piercer, but this is a piercer who did my septum piercing. I got the septum piercing before this lower helix piercing. So we knew each other, and she was recommended to me by a friend. This lady is good, guys, but she is where a place of work is far from where I lived at the time. That's why I decided to go to this people were just like a walk away from where I was living. So I went to her, and she's another thing. I'm going to talk more about, rave about this piercer who swabbed my ear piercing. She's clean. She is gentle. She talks you through the piercing. She checks upon you after the piercing. She's just good. She's brilliant. She's brilliant, guys. So I went to her, and then she changed the bar for me. So with time, as the ear was swelling up, it would sometimes suck up the bar that I originally got from the other piercer. So I had to take it out and put in a longer one. Actually, when I went to this lady who ended up swapping out my piercing, she took out the original piercing and she was like, voila, it's out. Because I think she thought I was there to take it out, which I was. But then later on I thought, what, I paid so much money for this piercing and I've always wanted it. Maybe I should give it time to heal. So I asked her to please put in a longer bar, which she did. And then on the 2nd of July, I got my first course of antibiotics. The antibiotic is called Beta Club. It was 1,000 milligrams. It's like a penicillin antibiotic. So I thought, not, my problems are finally going to be over. I'm on this antibiotic now. It didn't work. After 5 days, it got a little bit better, and then it just got worse from there. So 5 days, the antibiotics are finished, and I'm still in pain. And now the pus is getting worse. So while I was on the antibiotic, I was also soaking my ear in warm salt water and cleaning it 3 times a day, which would help for like a couple of minutes after I've soaked the ear or cleaned it. Otherwise, you just go back to being really painful and swollen and full of pus. So on the 7th of July, so there was a chemist close to where I was staying. So they were my dealer. That's why I was getting my painkillers. It was over the counter painkillers, nothing illegal. But yeah, they were my dealer. So I got an antibiotic from them called Macropen. I got it on the 7th of July. And it was disgusting. It was a disgusting pain antibiotic. And it also didn't work. So when the Macropen finished, I decided, not, this is not getting any better. It's 2 weeks now, and I'm still in pain, and nothing is changing. So I finally decided to take out the piercing. So like, you know what, we've had a good time, but it's time I take this out. And on the day that I took out this piercing, I was laying in bed. Like, the time it hit me that I have to take out this piercing, I was laying in bed. And so before, I would press the piercing and then the pus would come out. But on this day, the pus was just oozing out of my ear. It was just coming out. And no matter how many times I wiped, it would just keep coming out. So I thought, you know what, this is now beyond me. Let me take out this piercing. And this was on the 10th of July that I took out the piercing. So for a couple of minutes after taking it out, guys, the pain was gone. I was a free woman. And the swelling actually seemed to be going down. So I'm like, yeah, I won. I did it. My God! Wow! I did. That was the solution the whole time. The pain came back, and it came back with a vengeance. And now, so pushing out the pus would sometimes help with the pain. But tell me what, the hole was gone. But it looked like I'd never pierced it before. There was no hole there for the pus to come out. So, I would feel this like throbbing pain, which I think is like the pus building up. But there was no exit for it because the hole closed within a couple hours. So now I was just sitting there miserable and in pain. And I was taking painkillers. It wasn't going away. So the Monday, so when I took out the piercing, it was over the weekend. And then the Monday, I finally decided to go to a doctor. So I took it out on a Sunday. And the Monday, which was the 11th of July, I went to a doctor. I finally decided to go to a doctor. And then she squeezed pus out of the ear, right? She squeezed some pus out. And then she gave me another course of antibiotics, which she thought would work. These were called... Oh, I didn't write down that antibiotic. But okay, really, you guys are not missing much because it also didn't work. So she gave me a course of antibiotics that I had to take, and she booked me off for 2 days. So 2 days I was sitting at home, taking painkillers and trying to squeeze out the pus. And so she made like a hole there for me to squeeze out the pus. That hole also closed. So I'm sitting at home hoping for the best, and thinking, I went to a doctor. This should fit. The doctor knows. Doctors know best, and I should be healed now. Guys, before I went through this experience, I viewed doctors as God's assistants. So I thought doctors know everything, and they're the solution to all our problems. Once you go to a doctor, you are sorted. You are sorted. I know I was being naive, and yes. But now I know better, and that mindset really put a lot of pressure on the doctors who were trying to help me. Of course, I wasn't saying to them, fix this, but they could see how much hope I was putting in them, and it put them like under so much pressure. Because doctors don't know everything. I think even once someone starts practicing as a doctor, there's still more for them to learn, and there's new things that they encounter on a regular basis, and they have to find ways to help you. So I was like, doctors always know best. So I thought, my problems are finally going to be over. So I was home, not to ramble. So I was at home for 2 days, and I went back to this doctor, and okay, so I went back to the doctor. So I'm just looking at my notes to see. Okay, so I went back to this doctor. Actually, for some reason, I went back to so I went back to this doctor on 2 days later. So she booked me off for 2. So 11 July, my first day at the doctor, and then 13 July, I went back to the doctor for a checkup. And here in my notes, I said 13 July 2022, went back to doctor for checkup. He had swollen up to twice the size with excessive pain. Yes, that's what was going on with my ear, guys. I actually have quite, my ears are not very big, so this is like my regular ear. So imagine this twice the size. I'm going to put up some pictures when I'm editing the video, but I really, I'm a new YouTuber, so I don't know what's acceptable in the eyes of YouTube. So I'm going to put the most demure of the pictures. I'm not going to put the scary ones, and hopefully those demure ones who make it past YouTube, I hope they will be acceptable in the eyes of YouTube, and I hope I won't scare you guys, because that's the last thing I want. Okay, so the doctor made a decision to drain pus. Okay, so when I went back to the doctor, 13 July, right? She then made an incision at the back of my ear to try and drain the pus, because there was no outlet for the pus. So just to let you know the events that went down in this doctor's back room. It's not like a dodge. Whenever I say back room, I feel a bit weird about it, because then it sounds like it was some dodgy doctor at the back of some abandoned building. No, it's actually a regular doctor. And she had a back room. So I hope you guys, when I say back room, you also visualize a professional environment. So she took me to a back room. She took me to a back room, right? And she suggested that she makes an incision in the back of my ear and try to drain out the pus that was in there. So when she made the incision, so now before making the incision, she had to administer local anesthesia, just to numb the ear. So she kept on injecting anesthesia, but I could still feel the blade as she's trying to cut the incision. And she actually pointed out to me, listen to this, guys, because it's going to come up later. She actually pointed out to me that pus absorbs local anesthesia. So it was going to take some time for the ear to actually get numb. But eventually we got it right, and it was numb, and she made an incision at the back. But instead of pus coming out, only blood came out. And it wasn't like, dark, thick blood. It was just like clear blood, like blood that would come out from a regular cut, which uh, was quite shocking for both of us. I was shocked, and the doctor was equally shocked. Because when she made the incision, we both expected to see maybe a lot of pus come out mixed with blood, or just pus, or maybe dirty blood. But none of the above mentioned came out. So she then suggested that I go to the hospital. She said, "Ciao, I'm too young for this." No, that's not what she said. She just suggested that I go to the hospital because she realized it was getting really bad and she couldn't help me in your office. So she wrote down a referral for me to go to the hospital. That which was 13 July. I went to the hospital, and um, so when I left the doctor, she said she suggested that I don't go to the regular queue at the hospital. Instead, she suggested that I go to casualty. So there's ER and then there's casualty. So she said I should go to casualty, and she wrote on my letter that it was urgent, I need to go to casualty. So that's why I went. And guys, tell me why it was so full. There were a lot of people, and I felt bad. I really felt bad being there. I felt like an imposter. I felt like an imposter because there are people who are genuinely sick and from illnesses that they didn't ask for. And here I am with my ear piercing in casualty, holding up the queue, like holding up the line, keeping doctors busy with my self-inflicted wounds. I did feel bad, so I just thought I should let you know, guys. I felt bad and I was embarrassed, and I actually tried as much as I could not to share with the people in the queue what I was there for. So people would talk, like, because now we're sitting there for hours, so people would end up talking, and if anyone would ask me, "Oh, so what are you, ma'am? What are you here for?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I just have a little bit of an ear infection." I just have a bit of an ear infection, and actually had my ear covered. Because now remember, my doctor cut it and it was bleeding, and the bleeding wasn't stopping. It had not stopped at this time that I was at the hospital. It was still bleeding, so I was holding my ear so it can stop bleeding. So so eventually I got to see the doctor. So I got there around 5 p.m. and they actually on the wall a notice that says there's an average of the average waiting time is 3 hours, and I did get to see the doctor by 8 p.m. So I got there around 8 p.m. I went in to see a doctor. So actually what happens when you get to this hospital, you get your vitals checked by nurses, and then you tell them why you're there. They create a folder for you. They give your folder to the doctors, and then the doctors call you in. But this process takes 3 hours because it's a public hospital, and there are a lot of people going there. So I eventually got to see the doctor, and when this doctor took one look at my ear, she called your colleague. It was a guy, so he called his colleague. So like, you called his colleague and said, like, he was showing them my ear. He said he had never seen anything like that before. Because also my ear was sticking out, so it was starting to look like a mushroom. It was starting to look like a mushroom. It was starting to look like, so it was like that. It literally looked like a mushroom. So he said, "Child," what he asked me, like, what happened? And you know what? These doctors, why did they do this? Why did they do this to me? They asked me, "How old are you?" I forgot to mention, in 2022, I was old enough to know better. And they said, so when I told them my age, they're like, "No, the people who usually get here at the hospital who are in trouble with piercings are teenagers." Ma'am. So yeah, so I was a bit embarrassed to talk about my age, so I would actually whisper. So now every time a doctor would ask me my age, I would whisper it to them because I'm like, "You know what? I don't want people. I don't want people to give people culture shock here." Okay, so his colleagues were looking at the ear, and he said, "You know what?" He said to me, "I'm going to try and squeeze out some of the pus and see if it helps, and then we can maybe prescribe an antibiotic for you. So he also tried to squeeze out pus. So more pus actually came out when this male doctor squeezed my ear, because I think maybe squeezed harder than my doctor from earlier in the day, because my doctor earlier in the day uh, was a bit more gentle. So people, the pain I felt while this man was squeezing my ear, but I honestly couldn't complain because I needed help, and this was to some extent self-inflicted. So he squeezed really hard, and quite a bit of pus came out. It was collected in this metal bucket. And then he said, you know what, this is like really beyond my area of jurisdiction. So I'll have to refer you to mini ops. It's called mini ops. I think mini ops for mini operations. So actually had him, even had, and another thing, sometimes doctors I think are also a bit scared to work with things that, not all doctors, but some doctors, from what I picked up during my experience, I'm not saying this is universal, this is in no way universal, but I could pick up this, that these doctors were a bit, I wouldn't say scared, I would say they were a bit apprehensive to do too much with my ear. Because the one doctor actually said, you know what, I've seen this, talking to his colleague, I've seen a rugby player who had the same issue, and what they do, he was talking about this thing where you compress the ear and then the pus keeps coming out and stuff like that. But then he said he doesn't want to experiment. He'd rather refer me to people who can help me better. So he said, he referred me to mini ops. So I got that referral letter, and they actually booked me for an operation for the next day. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. So 14 July, I then went back to the hospital for the mini ops. I was there like super early in the morning, punctual lady. Okay, so I'm going to read from my notes what I wrote, because I wrote something about the 14th of July. So I said 14 July, men opened the hospital to drain pus. Doctor said there was a lot of pus. So I'm going to relay the events of this day, the mini ops day. So I'm almost I'm almost done with this, with the part A of the video. So when I got to just some events worth noting, guys. So as I was sitting in the room, so you would get to the reception where they do your folder, like just checking that you're there on the day, and then they give the folder to the surgeon, and then you sit in a room where you wait to get your operation done. I was sitting in there with people who had been on the waiting list for 6 months. I think there was a guy who said to me he had like a growth somewhere on his back. Why do I keep thinking it was in his bum? I don't know. My memory. Okay, so people had been on the waiting list for long, and now I started realizing maybe I shouldn't share that. I actually got my appointment for the next day, but I think it's because maybe it was not the doctors know best. They probably know why I had to be booked for the next day, and I still didn't tell people that it was because of a piercing, because I said it. Hell no, ain't no way I'm going to tell people that I'm here wasting the government resources because of a piercing. So I'll just say, oh, no, it's just an ear infection. They're like, what happened? I'm like, I really do not know, people. I really don't know. And most of the people who were in this, like if there were younger people in the room, I'd probably be more open. Like young people, I'd say people younger than me, I'd be more open so they can learn from my mistakes. But it was really old people. I was actually the youngest person in there. It was like really old people. So they've learned everything. If anything, they're probably going to teach me a thing or two. Okay, so I then finally it was my turn to go into the operating room. Guys, I was shaking. It's not called shaking, it's called what? Shivering. I was shivering. My teeth were literally chattering. Is it called? No, it's not clatter, it's chatter. My teeth were chattering. That's how much I was shivering. When I got into the operating room, it's actually quite cold in there, which didn't make my situation any easier. I was like shivering. I was shivering. One of the labor assistants, like of the assistants in the pit, actually asked the doctor, the surgeon, my surgeon, why is she shaking like that? And he said it's nerves. Because I was like, I was so nervous, I was so scared. So now this doctor, this surgeon was now what do you call it? Like doing the local anesthesia thing again to numb my ear. So I was laying on my side. Oh man, there was such a lovely lady in that theater on that day. Oh my word, she held my hand and I was crying and she was comforting me. And she was like the way she held my hand the entire time. She didn't let go of my hand. She was, oh my word, that lady, God bless her, I hope she's doing well. She was holding my hand the entire time. And you know what? I thought this could be part of their job, but I think she went over and above to make sure that I'm comfortable. And you know, like throughout this experience, I was alone. I did it on my own because I didn't want to burden anyone. And I'm very far from my family. So, and another thing, I also don't have a lot of friends because I work a lot. I'm a workaholic. And the only time that I get to rest, I actually focus on resting. So the friends, uh, the friends that I have are actually mostly my colleagues. So I don't have any close. I have a close friend. So I do have a close friend, but we don't meet up a lot. Actually, I have two close friends, but we don't meet up a lot. And I also didn't want to burden them. And actually, the second close friend was my colleague at the time, and she had to be at work covering for me instead of accompanying me to hospitals and stuff. So and I also didn't want to burden this friend. So actually the other friend who lives far from me, she didn't know until I got better. And the friend who I was working with, I really wanted to just focus on her work and be there to help me out when I'm not there. So I was basically alone, and I lived alone. So I was basically alone on this. So this lady was the comfort that I didn't know I needed. Okay, so back to the story. So I was laying on my side, and the surgeon was behind me. So you would apply the local anesthesia and then ask me, and then sorry, you would inject, not apply, it's inject. Really, you would inject the local anesthesia and then tap the back of my ear with the blade to check if I could feel the blade. So he said, all I should feel is a bit of pressure. And eventually I shouldn't be feeling any pressure at all, or like feel the blade. So you'd inject the anesthesia and then stab the back of my ear with the blade and ask me if I could feel it. So every time I would say, yes, I can still feel it. Yes, I can still feel it. And this time I'm remembering what my first doctor said. Pus absorbs local anesthesia. Pus absorbs local anesthesia. And I think this is what was happening. And now this surgeon was getting frustrated with me. He was now being snappy with me. He was being snappy with me. And then like eventually one of the ladies who was in there asked him, like, why would she lie that she can still feel the blade if she wasn't feeling it? And she asked him, like, how would she know that you are pressing a blade against your ear if she's looking away from me? Because I was looking away from him. So how would I know he's like poking the back of my ear with the blade if the local anesthesia had really kicked in? So eventually he decided to call in the big guns and put me to sleep. Because now, and another thing, this surgeon kept on complaining, like, I have a long queue, I have a lot of people that I need to help. Because now, because it's a public hospital, they don't, I think these surgeons, they come in on certain days. And they probably, like, maybe have their own, what do you call them? Their own, guys, I know what it's called, their own practices, and they come to the public hospital to help out from time to time. Actually, that's another thing I forgot to mention. On the 13th of July, when I first went to the hospital, they said, oh, you're in luck, the surgeon is here tomorrow, because they come on certain days of the week. So I completely also understand his frustration with me, because he was only there for a couple hours on certain days, and he had a lot of patients that he needed to attend to. So he really didn't have time for me, not not cooperating. I was cooperating, guys. It's just the anesthesia wasn't working. So eventually they called in the big guns and they put me to sleep. And then when I woke up, I went through the struggle of waking up from anesthesia and talking a lot of nonsense. I'm not gonna say what I said. I'm not gonna repeat what I said, because I actually when I woke up, I was conscious. I knew what I was saying, but I didn't have control over my mouth. My mouth was just running. My mouth was just running. So after they take you to a room where they monitor you and you wake up. After you wake up, they take you to a recovery room. So I went to the recovery room after. I'm not going to tell you the whole process of how this works at the hospital, because I don't think any of you want to go there, and I don't wish for any of you to go to a hospital. So I'm not going to go into depth about how I got booked in and how I got booked out. But okay, so after I woke up from the recovery room and I went to the surgeon, he said to me, a lot of pus came out. I don't know if you're going to be okay. Yeah, I thought the surgeon has fixed my problems and now he's confessing this to me. So, but I was hopeful. So this surgeon prescribed flucloxacillin. Don't know, I'm going to put the name up. So I'm going to butcher it for now, and when I put it up, then you guys can read. So it was called flucloxacillin. Flucloxacillin on the 14th of July. And this antibiotic is disgusting. I know I said the other antibiotic was disgusting. This one was absolutely disgusting. Vile. It smelled and it tasted bad. And after I drank it, I'd feel like throwing up. It was terrible. But I wasn't in the position to choose. So he gave me that, and he gave me painkillers that were not the best of painkillers. Really. These painkillers I had to take, like, okay, I'm not going to say much on YouTube on how many of these painkillers I had to take for me to just get a bit of comfort. So after that, they also gave me a letter to go to the local clinic the following Monday to get the wound cleaned, because now he cut the back of my ear to drain the pus, and then he did like this compression thing that he did against my ear, and then he said that the Monday I can go to the local clinic and get my wound cleaned. Guys, I'm going to stop here, and I'll move on to part B. I thought this video is going to get too long. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and for taking the time to watch my video if you managed to get to the end. The next part is going to be getting the ear cleaned and the healing process. Thank you once again. Bye for now.